Creepers come out at night, zombies looking to bite, skeletons riding spiders while firing crossbows. Find some shelter, or you will die before the sun rises in the overworld. Imagination, creativity, you must find that it's free as long as you have a brain and a lot of things to do. What will you do when your imagination is the only thing that limits what you can do in the overworld? Oh, look out. You've got to craft things to survive. Oh, look out for a Minecraft movie. Oh, look out for terrible writing and bad performances. Oh, look out for a Minecraft movie. Boy, you don't get any goddamn darker and direr than this, folks. A Minecraft movie was directed allegedly by Jared Hess, who did Napoleon Dynamite. And there's a reference to Napoleon Dynamite in this. It actually made me slap my head so hard I thought my brain was going to fire into my car. And my car was pretty goddamn far parked away. So I don't really care, by the way, if any Minecraft fans appreciate this review or not. Because if you are a Minecraft fan and you like the video game, if you're a kid, if you're a young adult that grew up on it, and you enjoy the in references and the story, by the way, that was written by 6 people. There were 6 people. 6 people it took to write this goddamn atrocity. 6 people apparently that were playing Russian roulette, and apparently the one that could go home was the one that wrote the least offensive piece of dialogue. So I don't know how anybody was able to get out of the studio or the writing room or wherever, because almost every bit of dialogue in this was honestly offensive. It was offensive to anybody that speaks English, anybody that doesn't speak English, anybody in this universe. This is an offensively awful video game adaptation of the mega popular video game Minecraft that I played a little bit of. I never got into it because, quite frankly, I found it to be not my cup of tea. But I absolutely see why it is popular. I see why, like DLC has been out and why it has been so popular for a number of years. It is a creative masterpiece as far as, building stuff, surviving the night. And yes, there are a lot of creatures and a lot of, fun things to be found for video game fans. I just don't know how anybody that actually appreciates movies in any kind of halfway decent art form could really like a Minecraft movie. But yeah, Jared Hess didn't just do Napoleon Dynamite, he also did Nacho Libre. Speaking of Nacho Libre, Jack Black plays Steve. Jack Black, by the way, his shtick got old at least 10 to 15 years ago, and while he seems like a nice human being, and he was great in another video game adaptation as King Bowser in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. By the way, that shirt, that's a great goddamn shirt to get on Redbubble. That's a free plug for whoever that artist is. But really, that video game adaptation I thought was going to be absolutely horrendous. And the Super Mario Bros. Movie was a lot of fun. Sonic 1, 2, and 3 showed that video game franchises can get better. At least this wasn't directed by Uwe Boll, because somehow he would have made it even worse, because Uwe Boll makes everything worse, especially life. So, Jared has done other projects. He also played a character named General Chungus, the Chungus Among Us. And there are pig creatures in this place called the Nether that want to take over the overworld and mine its gold at the behest of the pig queen named Malgosha. And Steve, played by Jack Black, had dreams of getting into this mine. He found a way to get into the mine with this cube and this box. He gets in there, and then sometime later, he basically says, hey, we need to hide this key to saving the world somewhere else. So he sends his trusty dog out to basically hide it in his old house. And then some idiots happen upon it. By the way, Jason Momoa is in this, and while Jason Momoa is willing to be the butt of many jokes and is willing to make fun of himself, he also let Lisa Bonet go, and I don't know how you do that. How do you let somebody that looks like that has looked incredible for years and years and years, that looks better with age, how do you let that go? Nevertheless, yes, Aquaman himself plays Garrett. Garrett the Garbage Man, who is a popular video game player in 1989, a grand champion for this beat-em-up that was practically fucking Double Dragon. He's also dressed like Randy Savage and Bret Hart in the late 80s, early 90s for some reason. And also Jennifer Coolidge is in this as a vice president. There's going to be a lot of things I'm going to talk about in the spoiler section, but one thing I will talk about before that is the writing is pure dog shit. Pure, unadulterated dog shit. I hated this movie. And again, as somebody that had absolutely no expectations, when I first heard they were doing a Minecraft movie, I go, well, this doesn't seem like the best idea. But then again, there have been popular IPs that have been turned into gold mines, and I have no doubt that this movie will make a mint at the box office. Probably in the U.S., I don't know how popular Minecraft is worldwide, but I could definitely see a sequel or two happening if this is enough of a runaway success, because there is a built-in fan base of children that are just discovering the game and people that discovered it when it first came out that grew up on it. Now, if you are a fan of the game, I would love to know your thoughts on this. Do you think they honored the game well? Because I can tell you as just a novice that they didn't honor anything movie-wise well. This story is terrible. It limps along. It is 95 minutes. There are a couple post-credit scenes, or one mid-credit and then one post-credit scene that I guess have references to the game. Again, I'm not deep into the lore. But I'm going to talk about these writers, by the way. You have Chris Bowman, who did Masterminds 2015. Not the fun Masterminds that had Patrick Stewart taking over a school in 1998. No, really, that happened. It wasn't a great movie, but I remember liking the advertising. Hubble Palmer, who wrote the same stuff as Chris, and then you have Neil Widener. This needed a Widener, space in its net, so everybody fell through. And then we could have gotten writers who were actually, okay, that's mean. I'm sure they got paid well. I hope they got paid well, especially after the writer's strike, but god damn it. Gavin James also did this. By the way, the story was done by a few people, and so many people were involved in the writing process here, and you could goddamn tell. Alison Schroeder did Mean Girls 2, Hidden Figures, the Christopher Robin live-action movie that I totally forgot existed, and Heart of Stone. Also, she's responsible for that. Thanks, Allison! Well, actually, Gal Gadot's responsible for that, but nevertheless. Chris Galetta, who did Kings of Summer, I've heard about that. But yeah, you have Emma Myers, who was in Wednesday. That's a show I still need to check out. She plays Natalie. She has a little brother named Henry, and they end up at a house somewhere in Idaho. They call it Chuglas, Idaho. It's actually, I think, Challis, Idaho, or Challis. I forget how you pronounce it, but it's about an hour north and east of Boise. By the way, Nampa, Boise, and Coeur d'Alene are about the only three cities I think that most people outside of Idaho know. By the way, fuck Idaho. Sorry if you live there, but, the white supremacist capital of the Pacific Northwest, I have no problem saying that. There are good people there. $150 million budget for this. $150 million budget. I would like to know where that budget went, because it didn't go to the special effects. These special effects were rotten. The green screen stuff obviously was going to be heavy. You couldn't have full-on costumes of at least too many of these creatures. The sheep, the creepers, the sheepers, as it were. The pigs, the villagers with the giant noses. It's like Walt Disney designed this. If you get it, you get it. Speaking of which, there is a point with one villager has a storyline with another character that actually made me think, I think they thought they cooked here. I'm a 44-year-old man trying to say that. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Jennifer Coolidge, I do not know why she is in this. I do not know what in the world Jason Momoa thought he was doing. I don't know about this. Sebastian Hansen, by the way, plays Henry, and the kid tried. Danielle Brooks plays Dawn, who has like a bunch of side hustles because it is a struggling economy in Idaho, I guess. None of these characters are allowed to breathe. There's very few. I think the one that gets the biggest arc besides Steve is Jason Momoa's Garrett. And the kids barely get any arc. There's a bunch of forced emotion. There's no sense of danger. There's no sense of wonder. For a movie that is based on a video game where creativity and imagination are your only limitations, this movie suffers from a lot of limitations. By the way, the limitations of, the fact that everybody involved in this, as far as putting it together, seemed to suffer several major head injuries. Nothing at all works in this. I hated this. I absolutely hate this. I'm going to get into spoilers, which really won't take very long because I don't have a ton to say because I'm not deep into the minutia of this. If you are a kid, fan of the game. If you're a young adult that's a fan of the game, you will likely enjoy it. If you're a parent of kids, take them. They may enjoy it. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, by the way, there is a line. First we mine, then we craft. Let's Minecraft. That is a line that somebody got paid to write. I'd like to know who got paid to write that, because I would like to tell this person that they need to find something else to do if that's the best they could do. By the way, everything about this just feels so manufactured, just made to make the most money. It has no soul. It has nothing to it. There are characters that happen like the sunrise, sunset, quickness in this, where the creepers come out, the green, cactus walking things, that if you hit them, they end up exploding. And there are other ones that explode as well. These zombies that could get you. And again, there are parts to this movie that could have worked if they would have leaned into it, but stuff just occurs. Nothing is allowed to breathe, but then stuff is also simultaneously dragged out. We have the arc of Steve from a kid wanting to go into the mine, then he gets older, and then he puts a TV dinner or a lunch, together, like a TV tray thing, and realizes, I'm going to go back to the mine. So he does. And he goes with this cube and this box and everything, and that unlocks the key to the overworld. He meets Dennis, the dog that he gives the femur to. Not his own femur. As funny as that would have been. It would have been at least better than anything else they did. The dog treats him like family. He finds out that there's, some crazy shit going on in this. And also, yes, the Nether with Malgosha, a terrible villain, by the way. These pigs, by the way, have to be in darkness, because if they're in sunlight, then they fry. Why? Because they're evil and they can't stand sunlight, like the mole people. Though the mole people had better production values and was less shit, despite John Agar being in it. Nevertheless, let's talk about... In fact, Jason Momoa's character has a failing video game store with a lot of cool stuff. A storage buy goes totally tits up. His car is just totally fried. And Natalie, by the way, Emma Myers doesn't even look like she should be able to legally take a driving test. Apparently she was born in 2002, so I guess that means she's, 22, 23 now. Nevertheless, she doesn't even look like she should be allowed behind the wheel. She looks like she should still be in a car seat. Just saying. But she's driving, and their parents died, or their mother died. Somebody died. The parents died. The legal guardians died. So then they drive to Idaho. And that's the only house they could afford. The only thing you could afford is in fucking Idaho. I am so sorry that Washington State doesn't have better stuff for you kids. So they arrive. Dawn has a side hustle with a bunch of animals that she raises. There is a bit of creativity from Henry where he puts a jetpack on a skeleton after drawing stuff in the goddamn thing with a teacher that turns out actually is the ex-husband of Vice President Coolidge. I'm just going to call her Vice President Coolidge, even though she's named Marlene, played by Jennifer Coolidge, who mentions a couple times that, her husband divorced and she didn't think she could love again. And why is any of this funny? None of this is funny. Oh, yes, and also Steve, meanwhile, got kidnapped by the pig people, sends Dennis away to go lock the cube away, but then realizes it would be easily found. His house ends up getting bought. His stuff ends up in storage. He gets Garrett gets the cube, and Henry ends up kind of befriending him after this skeleton rocket thing blows up this giant, almost Mr. Peanut-like potato thing at this potato factory that Natalie, Emma Myers, again, looks like she should still be sitting in a goddamn car seat, I'm just saying, and yet she is helping run this company. But never mind that, the mascot gets blown up, tumbles down into the water. I keep forgetting they actually have lakes and rivers in Idaho, which is kind of funny because it just seems like flat land. But that being said, we end up then having Henry befriend Garrett, Jason Momoa is funny. All his dialogue is super forced here and just not very good and not very creative. He's like trying to be this uber macho, stereotypical character. Obviously, he has a heart of gold. He's upset that he's losing his business. That he has the one thing, the video game championship in 1989, that he's been hanging his hat on. And by the way, that would make him about 50 at this point. 1989 to 2025. That is goddamn 30. Oh, Jesus Christ. God damn it. I was 8 years old when 1989 was around. The whole point is, I like the video game references, the arcade, machines. I would have liked to have seen more of that shit. Certainly, the video games they created were more interesting than this thing based on an actual video game. Good job there, writers, you fucking idiots. So they end up getting the cube. Henry ends up putting the cube in the little box. They go into the overworld, and bingo bango, they end up realizing that they need to find shelter because of zombies and all that stuff and the spider skeleton things. I'm just tossing these notes away because what the fuck. $150 million for this stuff. None of the action scenes are any good. Yes, characters blow up, these creepers and stuff like that. Steve has, stuff, hideouts all over the goddamn map. There are these villagers. Meanwhile, because the gate's still open, this one villager just wanders out into the real world. Just nobody's guarding this place. Nobody's guarding this place. There's an old prospector. There's gold in them there hills. Apparently he keeled over and died because he looked like he was about 200 years old. So a fifth of Zoe Stark. Deep cut for wrestling fans. Villager wanders out. Jennifer Coolidge hits him with a car. And we get a romance between them. I mean, we just get a dinner date. And then we get a little bit more of a romance and a early credits scene. And then, by the way, the post-credits scene involves Steve talking to a woman named Alex. And there's a chest up in his attic. I guess, because she owns his house now. Is Alex important to the goddamn canon of Minecraft? I don't care. So basically, Garrett has to realize that, there's more to life than just money, even though he needs to get some diamonds to save his video game shop and basically save his life because he's broke. Hasn't really had any friends. Henry trusted him. That story arc is just totally goddamn dropped, though. The weird pig creatures come in on octopus, airship deals where they can launch fireballs. It's like if King Koopa had a goddamn, army of stupid pigs as opposed to stupid kids. Can't wait for the Super Mario Bros. 2 movie, which ought to introduce the Koopa kids. That ought to be fun. But we just get stupid battles. We have Henry needing to lean into his creativity. Nobody is put in danger. There's a point where Garrett ends up trying to sacrifice himself and gets blown up on a bridge to save Henry or Hank, as he calls him, and Steve. Steve also, by the way, abandons his idea of getting the cube for Malgosha because he realizes, well, shit, I need to save the overworld. And the reason Malgosha is doing this, by the way, and stamping out creativity is she did a dance competition when she was a kid and was told, you don't need to do this anymore by her father or whatever the fuck that was. And that's why she hates creativity. That's your story arc right there. Even for a kid's movie, that is really, really weak. Whoever came up with that goddamn idea, the stupid writer, and if the video game creators came up with that, you need to find some better way to do story arcs. And yes, there's the block building stuff. You throw the blocks, you do this, you build your forts and everything. And that would have been fun, except Hank just figures it out. Natalie isn't nearly as creative. Garrett is still trying to be uber macho with his Bret Hart, Randy Savage sunglasses, which I did appreciate, I will admit that. And eventually they have to band together. They go to Steve's, hideaway that has all the shop stuff and everything. Then the villagers get besieged by the pigs that chase them, and then Garrett doesn't die, by the way. Garrett survives. Malgosha ends up getting a hold of the cube and wants to turn the overworld into complete darkness so she can rule the entire Minecraft universe. Naturally, with about 20 minutes left, we find out that, Garrett didn't die. He ends up saving Henry Hank, while it looks like that Henry Hank is about to vanish into the ether. There's this giant beast hog pig thing that has a new brain. Apparently, he went to the same doctor that Shibata went to. And we just get more and more action-y stuff. We get these iron golems that won't fire unless provoked. And then one of the pigs hits him with an arrow. And if any of this was actually funny, then it would matter. Now, I will say there were a few chuckles in the audience because there were children there. A shocking amount of people for a 3 p.m. showing on a Thursday with school still going. But we just basically get everybody banding together. Steve decides after Malgosha is basically defeated, she keeps trying for the thing where she's going to stick him with a knife, and he even calls it out, are you going to stick me with a knife? And she tries it 3 different times. and it doesn't work. Then she basically dies, seemingly. Garrett realizes that he needs a friend and that he needs a friend his own age. They wish Steve would come back to the universe. Natalie, by the way, was worried when Henry Hank was hurt, but that's okay. And I would have lost him and he's my responsibility. And she wasn't really a very good guardian. But Steve decides to go back to the real world. Along with Dennis, along with everybody, and that's okay. I guess the overworld villagers are just going to do whatever. They'll obviously return for the sequel. And yes, Jennifer Coolidge was on a dinner date with the villager. A villager. Whatever. Did that villager have a name, or is he just called the villager? And then ends up seeing that the teacher of Henry Hank was actually her ex-husband. And, the villager is now with her, and it's like this telenovela-like thing where he's speaking English, the villager is, and she's speaking villager, and what? Why is any of this happening? And then we cut to credit. Like, yes, we get some singing with Jack Black, and I'm sorry, for somebody that has a band named Tenacious D, Jack Black really can't sing. I mean, he does it in earnest. And they all work on a video game together. He does a karaoke thing or an original song or whatever the fuck it was to close out the movie. We get the telenovela thing, and then we get Jack Black talking to Alex about the chest in the attic and stuff like that. And whatever. It's fine. Kids will love it. Fans of the games will love it. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. You might hate it. If you're a fan of the game, you might nitpick everything. And I just hate it as a movie because it represents everything manufactured about video game movies when you could actually do something creative. And for something with full of imagination and creativity, the only limits and stuff where you can literally build whatever you want, this movie fails to build even something where you can step a foot off the ground. It gets an F. It is terrible. It is 100% terrible. Agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.